You've been doing a lot of this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tired of it?
Not at all.
Good.
No,
Excited?
I love this movie. I'll talk to anybody.
Oh, very good.
I'm ready to go.
Oh, okay. Well, don't let me slow down that momentum and that enthusiasm, but I do want to mention one thing.
Yeah.
It's a connection, and one of all of the weirdest things in the world. I'm meeting with Garnett Kellman tomorrow.
Barnett.
That's what I said.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting in a studio doing the audio commentary for Straight Time tomorrow.
No.
Of all the places in the world.
That it has an audio. Well, you're gonna love him. He's the best.
You're in that movie, by the way.
I certainly am. He's an old friend. He's just a great guy.
Oh, that's good to know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any other reason to believe otherwise, but I'm actually looking. I watched it the other day for the first time, and I have to kind of rewatch again.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I'm going to actually need to be on it with him. Sometimes you're just there in case something. They just want, they need you. But this case, they asked me to sit in with him and do the commentary. So it's me, Dolly, and Griffin.
And Dolly's doing it too?
No.
Oh.
But in my heart. In my heart. Anyway, and the other thing, Jerry Schatzberg, he did this podcast.
Great.
So it's a serious podcast. I mean business.
Uh-huh.
Jerry directed, of course, Panic in Needle Park, which your aunt and uncle co-wrote. And
my dad produced.
And your dad produced it. So it was a real family.
And I'm an extra in it.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you play, like a...
I'm just a kid walking through a supermarket. You don't even see
Good
me.
enough. So where to begin with this? Let's just start at the beginning.
You.
First of all, beautiful, beautiful film. The first thing I saw at the New York Film Festival, press screenings, first thing I saw, absolutely so happy that I saw it.
Oh, good. Me too.
And I said, whoever made this film, get him on this. You were actually on once with the and I meant to look up the title again, but it was the one where you're the dad, and and you're the kids in the woods, and recent, about 4 years ago.
Oh, Discoverers.
The Discoverers.
And that's where we last talked.
Yeah, with the director. Anyway, so do you feel like you're the only one who could have told this story, or it was just a driving?
No. I had there was no there was no driving urge. I while making a short film with Joan that she had asked me to make to promote Blue Nights. I loved the experience. We had so much fun doing it, and I became aware of that there was no. There'd never been a documentary about her before, by her own choice, and I kind of thought I'm in a really unique situation of knowing her and being a filmmaker, and the only one probably in a position that she would allow, if she did, to tell her story. Which, I think she allowed this to happen because we were related. Not just as a nepotism thing, but we'd be talking about people in our past, in our mutual past, that both of us shared enormous love for, who are no longer here, being John and Quintana, and we were talking about my dad and my mom and my sister, and so there was a very much of a very strong family connection. Joan is extremely family oriented. Family is particularly the Dunnes. From the moment, even though she's from strong Western stock, she had a very strong connection with the Irish Catholic immigrant side of the Dunnes. So I think all of those aspects are kind of led to her saying, "Oh, okay, go ahead."
Did you? I know your dad passed away 6 or 7. Pardon me if I'm getting dates
that's right.
But and your mother's she's gone, or she
is also gone. She died of MS in the mid 90s, 1995.
It's been a while, but so I wonder also if you had after that, if you found yourself growing closer to your Aunt Joan, just sort of in a natural way that I don't know. Did you?
Well, we were
movie aside.
Sure, no, of course. We were always very close for whatever reason. John and Joan, and when John was alive, that was one word: John and Joan.
Yeah,
and they always included me in their lives, socially and just hangout time. And so I was always close to them growing up. And then when they moved to New York and I was an adult and they were here, I just seamlessly ended up, we ended up very easily back in each other's lives, or back in each other's city. And so, I got to know Joan as Joan on her own, Joan, after John died.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it was a truly new experience because I can count on my hand the number of times I've ever seen them separated, since I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was really establishing Joan with Joan. And when John died, my father was alive, and he sort of stepped into the John role. And then when he died, I did. But it was two sides. Her friends and family adjusting to one half of a couple, but more devastatingly, Joan dealing with being the other half of the couple that survived.
Yeah, there's an intimacy there, but the dynamic, especially because there seems like it's the two of you now,
Yeah.
to some degree.
Yeah. No, that's quite right. Actually.
And it was, the time was really ripe for this, project, and because there was an intimacy and a trust and a bond there that comes through in the film. I won't get as necessarily as far to say that there's a sense that you're taking care of her in this film, maybe a little, but she seems pretty fiercely able to do that on her own.
She certainly does, and she has a very strong group of friends.
Some of whom are in the film.
Some of whom are in the film.
Calvin Trilling is in the film,
and so she's dinner. People over for dinner, 4 nights a week.
Oh yeah, so she's still very much.
She's there. She just got a dog that I helped her find. Quite honestly.
Uh-huh. Name?
Ellie.
Okay.
Ellie, rescue dog. Had to be a very particular kind of dog that was like the dog she sees in the park. This soft-haired Wheaten Terrier.
Uh-huh.
And my girlfriend and I really went through every online rescue animal thing you can imagine. I joined this soft-hair Wheaten Terrier Society.
From the AKA site or whatever, website, the American Kennel Association.
But eventually we found a lovely family in Boston who had to part with their dog, and now Ellie lies at Joan's feet, and growls if we get too close.
What did the title come from? The title, because I haven't mentioned it, but I probably will have certainly in the intro. The center will not hold.
It is from the Yeats poem, by we're slouching towards Bethlehem, and also borrowed the title from. It is referring to what Joan experienced when she went to the Haight-Ashbury during the Summer of Love, while others were looking at hippies making out.
50 years ago, right now.
Coming up, yes, that's right. Or just passed, actually.
I think it was 1967 was the Summer of Love, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, you're good at the math.
Well, I just was also at Woodstock this weekend. You were there. Oh, right.
Oh, at the Woodstock Film Festival.
I don't think I ran into you there, but which is
they showed the movie there as well.
Yeah, and you were supposed to talk to Miss Sarandon, who fell ill or something. She got sick. She couldn't make it.
She got pneumonia or something.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh, that's too bad. I hope she does okay.
Yeah, I'm sure she is.
But you were saying, I'm sorry. So, and I was thinking while I was there, oh my goodness, the next year they're going to have the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. And then it made me remember that, because I kept seeing photos of Michael Lang, who's
that's right. Yeah, he was
the founder.
Exactly.
Of that.
Yeah, he was there with another doc actually. About
Shep Gordon. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you. So you were saying
she went there, Summer of Love. While other people are looking at hippies and free love, and it's also groovy. She's looking at the children. the disillusion of the family, and all the runaways that were attracted there, and that were heavily involved in drugs. And when she's paraphrasing, or she's using the line "center will not hold," and we're using it in the same way of the center of the family not holding together. And but it's also about, in that same essay, is her, Joan, coming to terms with disorder, which is what she's been doing all her life. And she chronicles disorder in American society, and then later, tragically, in her own life.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the book, Slashing Towards Bethlehem through The Blue Knight, since both of those have come up, which kind of bookends her publishing career. You mentioned, I think it was at the New York Film Festival, where I saw a panel that you participated in on documentary filmmaking, and I think you mentioned that leading into the film, in preparation for, you read all her books chronologically. Did you say that?
Yeah, I did.
Had you not read them before, or were you just?
No, I've read her books.
I figure some of them at least.
Yeah, no. I mean, one of our brother, sister, parents, every Christmas, we would get from either of them a signed copy, with a personal inscription in. So, yeah, I'd read all of her books. But what I meant was, those are spread out over years.
Yeah.
So I'd not read them all in basically one sitting, and not in the order in which they were written. So I started with the very first piece that she wrote for Vogue at the age of 22. And she wrote on Deadline this just brilliant, incisive, I don't know, contract with yourself on, with your morals, on morality, and by which she's sort of lived by her whole life, and carried it all the way through. And when you immerse yourself in that, you come out knowing, no matter who the writer is, you know a lot about them just from
it's an intense
their phrasing,
and it's a very intense experience to just read through all that in a relatively concentrated period of time.
Absolutely,
I guess, right?
Absolutely right.
Because you're really going through a journey there, which you can't really build a momentum for reading it over 20, 30 years or more.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
You mentioned how close the family was, and yet in the making of this film, it's called Joan Didion, so it's about Joan and her family primarily. But I noticed you did keep your own nuclear family, other than maybe the visits to the California space, because that was such an important nostalgic period of time for you. But you kept kind of those stories out of her.
I did, very much for that the reason that you said, and they were in. That's how I know that I kind of had to take them in, take them out.
Very interesting.
Yeah, Joan wasn't a writer, and I took out all the writing stuff. I could have made a feature film just about our two families,
Yeah, right.
And it would just be like two families, both.
I actually think it would have been still a great film, but this wouldn't have been this film.
It wouldn't have been this film,
Yeah.
And I was hired to do this film, and it wasn't just for me, without putting too heavy a point on it. I really did feel the presence and an obligation from her readers, who are a passionate group, who were really hungry for this movie, and they were drawn to Joan by her work. Well, I think many from the Julian Wasser photo of her standing in front of the Stingray, and then her work. Not all of them, but I think that was a huge lure. But nonetheless, she has a very, her readers, have really been influenced by what they do for a living and where they live and the choices that they make and where they were in life when they read that particular essay. And, there are very few writers that have that visceral a connection with their reader. So nobody had done a doc about her before, so this was also for them. And they would be, rightly so, bitterly disappointed if it was just a family tale.
You know, as I think about it, having a long career, something makes for a great backdrop for a story like a documentary like this. But it's really the backdrop. I mean, the real story is what's going on during that, you know, which, but it does give it the framework, you know, well, so you can enjoy it on different levels, but the truth behind the film is something else.
Yeah. And it's not just what's going on in your life when you're writing something. It's also what's going on in the world about that you at that point in your life have chosen to write about. So it's really three things. It's history and cultural history, and you know where the Doors are, and where or fighting in Salvador, or when the Manson murders.
Right.
But it's you know, Joan wrote about that as Joan, who will mention in the piece, I have a daughter and a husband. So they're all three they're all in the air.
Right. Interesting. What does she make of this time now? Can she even grapple with?
Well, you know, the news, the 24-hour news thing is plays in the kitchen constantly, and
right.
She reads the paper and she's researching different sort of things that, but I think as a president, this guy is ultimately, for her as a writer and a journalist, really quite boring.
Yeah.
You know, what she prefers is someone who's brilliantly evil, trying to convey a message to throw people off what they're really saying, and having Joan go underneath that public message and say, this is what they're really saying. And this is why the New York Times wrote this. While the Times was writing that, the New Amsterdam, up in Harlem, are writing this. And what's the connective tissue here?
Yeah.
And
there's no subtext.
There's no subtext. There's no there. It's like it's like ass to mouth.
Yeah. to
into a microphone or a camera or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
And it's a constantly changing thing, and there's no, there is no message.
There's no message.
Well,
there's no center.
There's no center
at all. So that's
right.
the problem with this. It's a center-free environment, and it's a Netflix film.
It is a Netflix.
Did they
film.
come in as a producer, or did you complete it? I can't remember. I know you talked about this.
It came about when we had done a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
And we, with the Kickstarter, you have this on-camera plea, and we made a short. And we'd been to other financiers before, who I think, had the proper respect for Joan, but kind of thought, well, it's a documentary about a writer. How exciting can that be? But we did
well, the Baldwin did pretty good.
What?
That James Baldwin last year did pretty good.
When it works, it works.
Yeah,
and that works. Hopefully, the way mine will. It's in a historical context. It's the writer talking about the times of which they're living, and how, if their observations and essays, if they still are relevant or tell us about where we are, if they're still prescient, and that was kind of the feel of our trailer. So when Netflix saw that trailer, and they also saw how quickly we hit our goal, and the online chatter went viral, like crazy viral. I've never seen anything like it. And then they went, as we suspected, there's an audience for this. This is actually, this is about a woman, and it's about a family, and it's about our country.
I saw a photo of you and her in the box, seat at the Alice Tully Hall, right? Mm-hmm. And where they shine. It's a tradition for those listening that after the film, the director and whomever that's there in the box, they'll shine the light so you can have your bow and nod to the audience. And then you come down and do your Q&A. I assume that wasn't the first time she saw it.
That was not the first time she saw it.
But on a big screen, maybe it was?
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, for me too.
Oh, yeah? Is that right?
Never. No.
So what was that like for you then?
Well, it was incredible, and to see it on the big screen and have Joan right there beside me.
Holding your hand?
Yeah, with a little hand holding going on. Sure, why not?
In my mind, that's what's happening.
Sure, no. More that thing where you grip somebody's arm, and you're so proud. And
white knuckling, too.
Yeah. But no, she'd seen cuts all along the way, always had. But that was an incredible thing that happened that night. I mean, it was the movie ended. They do the traditional hitting the box with a spotlight, and standing with her, looking at those, 1,000 whatever people, looking up with tears in their eyes, with this 10-minute standing ovation.
Really?
I thought,
wow.
Well, isn't that great? Joan's in her 80s, and this is what she gets to see.
Yeah.
That all of the, it was like the culmination of all the love that had accrued based on all the work that had accrued, kind of culminated where so many people could in real time show her how much they love her. It was no small matter.
It also legitimizes now finally you figured out what you want to do. You're a documentary filmmaker. So after all these wayward years, you finally...
Well, I hadn't thought of it like that. I still have to be making a narrative here and there.
No, I'm sure. So what could be furthest on the spectrum from that film? Again, it's called Joan Didion, The Center Will Not Hold, which will be on Netflix on the 27th, Friday, the 27th of October.
Correct.
And select theaters, too, for a limited kind of... right?
Here in Manhattan at the Metrograph.
The Metrograph. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, love that
place.
It's
a really great spot, and they have a beautiful theater, beautifully projected. It's the perfect...
True movie lovers, and as someone who has lived in New York a long time, and I'd seen Bleecker Street, go out of business, and the Regency, and...
many.
All these that were just there... because they love movies.
Well, there's a resurgence as you see it. You're a New Yorker, so you know that there's movie theaters popping up again.
Absolutely,
which is kind of
great to see.
It is great to see, especially the irony, the tension between the SVOD and then as well as new theaters cropping up. It's great. Yeah. It's nice. And when I say that, I mean not just huge cineplexes for more superhero films, but for room for us all.
There is exactly.
Lots of different stories, right? Speaking of which, I love Dick season 2. Season 1 was pretty entertaining, I have to say.
It was certainly entertaining to be in, I'll tell you.
It's pretty far in the other side of the.
We're still waiting. Apparently, they're writing away, so we're just waiting to find out what happens.
Oh, really? So, I would have. I just figured it was all done in the
and not ruled out, but not ruled in. Mm-hmm. We're sort of in tenterhooks ourselves.
Okay.
For season 2.
We'll have a season 2. Jill Soloway's.
I would think so.
Yeah. It was very fun to watch you. A lot of physical comedy, a lot of, right?
I love doing that show.
Yeah.
I just loved it.
Yeah, it was very good. That's the end of my questions, actually.
All right.
Well, I feel like it was a nice, robust conversation about Joan Didion and the film. And I'm completely satisfied with it.
Oh, good. I am too. I figured you're satiated, so am I.
Well, barely. Well, then we can just say for people of my generation, which is just barely actually from yours, I should admit, but have to mention for my friends that are listening when I told them I'm bringing you on, the people wanted me to mention After Hours, of course, which was a big deal to everybody.
Sure.
You produced that, too, as starred in it.
I did.
Was that some sort of deal with Martin Scorsese that you would have the
that's what I feared. But Amy Robinson, my partner, found the script, Joe Minion's script, and we were partners on 2 movies before, and she actually, she was Teresa in Mean Streets, so she knew Marty, and
Right.
There was
yes,
Bob, Harvey,
uh-huh.
woman in the middle. That was Teresa, the chick, and so she, she got it.
Wait,
she
let
got
me
it
just
to
clarify. When you're referring to Bob and Harvey, I have
oh my
to
God!
clarify.
How about that?
I have to clarify
Oh,
something.
for God's sakes! Now he can't even say Bob and Harvey. Son of a bitch! When Robert De Niro and Harvey Keitel,
yes,
were in that movie.
Yeah.
So,
was that also, by the way, wasn't it? Was it? I can't remember if that was the film that was sort of Martin's agreement after New York, and King of Comedy, that he would make more crowd. That's the way it was, couched.
Yeah.
I don't
well,
know.
No, I mean,
or he made it in because he wanted to make Last Temptation of Christ. I can't remember.
No. He was actually shooting. He was not available to us when we first went with him to the script because he was shooting Last Temptation of Christ. Hadn't started, but was about to shoot it with Aidan Quinn as our Lord and Savior, and the financing was pulled.
Oh,
and he was sort of in director's jail. Because King of Comedy, as brilliant as it was, lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, so he wanted to make this movie. One of the reasons he wanted to make this movie was to show that he knew how to make movies the way he did when he did Mean Streets and Boxcar Bertha. Tight and to the ground, and he said publicly and to us, it got him falling in love with making movies again.
Oh.
So,
well,
we're making it as a series too, by the way. After Hours is a series, it'll be.
Oh, so it's actually
updated.
Germane of me to bring that up.
It turns
I
out
don't
to
feel
be.
so guilty. There's always that problem. I'm such a always worried. I'm an empathetic kind of guy, and I'm always thinking, don't bring up something old that's so hackneyed.
Yeah, I used to be bugged by shit like that too, but
oh, good.
Who cares?
You let that go. You're beyond that now.
I'm evolved. But yeah, we're.
So tell me about that. What's
very
you're
early
breaking news here?
stages.
Is this
I
here on
pretty much
Filmwax
am
Radio.
here. It's going to be spread out. It'll be one night, spread out over 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's successful, and it goes on another season, it'll be anthologized. So
I see.
Paul Hackett could be a woman, and the city could be Shanghai.
Right.
And it'll be a different city with a different set of problems.
Misadventure.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And in this, the obstacle is technology, which rules our lives. Let's face it, and it goes against you.
Well, it was one of those very truthful comedies because, as all great comedies have a lot of truth in them, of course, that's why we laugh. But that we've all sort of had that kind of night in our young adulthood or whenever, where you just can't
absolutely
can't escape.
Everybody's had that,
yeah. So can you do me a tiny favor? And it's just to say, do a little ID thing.
Okay.
So this is the name of the show, in case you've forgotten. I wrote it down for you. So you could say the director of JOAN DIDION if you want, whatever you want to say, and just say something, and then you're listening to.
Or I could just say, this is Griffin Dunne. You're listening to Filmwax Radio. Is that good?
Yeah, anything like that is great.
All right. This is Griffin Dunne, and you're listening to Filmwax Radio.
Perfect. So I was given the one more question sign, so I may as well ask. What else is? So you have After Hours, the series, which will probably be 2018 or 19.
Oh yeah.
That's down the road.
Yeah.
You're developing that, I assume.
Developing,
and then
early development.
But what about maybe acting or directing?
I just finished. Came back recently from. I just came back recently from Italy, Ravello, Italy, where Gore Vidal lived, and we shot a movie called Gore that Kevin Spacey plays Gore Vidal, and we shot it in Gore's actual house.
Is it still owned by his estate or something? Or
no, it's got a different owner who let us shoot there.
Let's go.
And I play Lenny Bernstein. And
you just happened to write West Side Story.
Just
whatever.
Yeah, no slouch. And I got the hair for it. So it was incredibly fun.
It's you bring it up, Joan, your aunt, Gore Vidal. There's obviously the documentary Voyeur, which is about
Gay Talese.
maybe it's there's a resurgence of those
action-packed writers.
They're so cinematic. Well, they are though.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
I mean, I think Gormy goes back a little bit further, but anyway, so it's kind of the literary epic is, or what have you. It's great.
Marvel,
to see.
Pay attention.
That's right. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk
Always.
to you.
I'm glad we could do this.
You too.